Hi, I'm Mike. I'm currently volunteering with Team Rubicon in South Bouzy in Mozambique, assisting with the disaster relief operation following the cyclone and flooding that hit this country 4 weeks ago. As you can see behind me now, we've got the Bouzy River behind me, and that cuts off this region from Beira to the north and North Bouzy, and the bridges and ferry were destroyed during the storm, making food and other aid very difficult to get to this part of the country. So with Team Rubicon and other NGOs, we're flying aid into an airfield which has been identified on this side of the river, and from here we're going out to all the remote villages distributing aid as and where it's needed, and I can tell you now it's desperately needed in many villages. Tomorrow we're heading out on a 4-hour journey to try and reach some villages that have received little or no aid to date, and they're in desperate need. The thing that struck me is the dignity, the patience, generosity of the people here. They're incredibly patient. They've been waiting a long time for any aid to arrive, but when you turn up, they're very welcoming and friendly. And an example is the children. We were up at the airfield the other day when aid was being flown in, and there were a number of children up there watching all day, and I was sharing my water with them, and after a few minutes a young boy came over and told me not to share anymore, to look after myself and take some water for myself. And that's typical of the people here. They're just so generous. They have nothing, they've lost everything, but the little they do have, they're willing to share with you. So I've spent most of my time here in South Bouzy, which, as I said earlier, is isolated from the north by the river behind me. We've been going to Inhuange, where we've been distributing food from there. But I went to a small village. It's not far from here, but it's very difficult to access because of the road situation. And when we got there, we were chatting to the villagers to assess their needs. And a woman who was in the crowd that was gathered around us threw a handful of maize on the floor in front of me, which was what they were eating. And this maize had been here from before the storm. They salvaged it from the damage after the storm, and it was covered in mud where the floodwaters had contaminated it, and that was all they had to eat. But even then, they were still smiling and welcoming to us, and that it was just very difficult to leave that village, although we obviously promised that we would be returning with some aid. But it was very difficult to walk away knowing the desperate straits that they were in. I was a police officer for 30 years in the UK. I've never seen anything like this at all. I've never lived in such conditions as this. This really is a harsh environment, but my goodness, it's the best thing I've ever done. Just seeing people who had nothing and just giving them water purification systems, which are desperately needed out here, so that they can drink the water without the risk of contracting cholera, and other aid. There's shelters, we're giving them tarps, we're giving them blankets. Cooking pans is another thing you just don't think of, that it's okay giving them food, but if they've got nothing to cook it in, then there's no point. So anybody who's thinking of coming out here, it's tough, there's no doubt about that, it is tough, but the reward is massive. As I say, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life, I think. And to see young children, I see young children every day. I've got 2 grandchildren the same age, and just to see them with some food at last, or some water at last, is just such a reward. I came out with Wave 1 initially, and then they went back and I stayed, and I'm now with Wave 2. 2 very different teams. Wave 1 was consisted of 50% of the people were in their late 20s, early 30s. Unbelievably motivated people and clever people who grasp the problem. The second team I've worked with are considerably older, I think I can say, without offending anyone, but highly motivated people with life skills which they bring to this arena, and help massively in the logistical moving, and identify very quickly problems, but more importantly they very quickly identify solutions, which is what these people desperately need, is solutions to the problems they have. to help them rebuild their lives. And this is going to be a massive ongoing project. We were at South Boozy School this morning, which the roofs are gone, everything is wrecked inside, they've lost everything, books, there's just nothing there other than the shells of building. So this is going to take a long time to rebuild these people's lives and get back to the normality that they knew before. This is the first disaster area I've ever seen on this scale, and it's definitely changed me. When I go home, I'll be definitely looking to do more of this type of work in the future if I could. But also when I see pleas for aid on the television and people to make donations, it's going to make me think actually that there is some worthwhile work going on. And I'm aware there's another wave of grey shirts hopefully going to be following us, because the last thing I want to do is when I go home on Saturday is just to walk away and leave these people. So hopefully there will be another wave of grey shirts, but that can't happen without the generosity of people back in the UK who make donations to Team Rubicon UK. You can do it via their website, and as I say, hopefully a third wave will be coming out. It's all done on the with the goodwill of the people of the UK. So if you are able to, and I know times are tough in the UK, but if you are able to, then I would urge you, please make a donation.